Okay, now, patch analysis, front hedge, we're going to do two things.
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay. 2 minutes entire time left? The entire group? I'll sit down.
Okay.
Tell us about the orchard.
We got 2 minutes to talk about the patches. Yeah.
Oh, 2 minutes to talk about the patches, not 2 minutes left entirely.
No, we have 10 minutes of Q&A afterwards.
Okay, good. Okay. The hedge pattern here, it's a pattern. And within this pattern, there are two patches. One patch is the outermost patch, which is a holly hedge. It's Ilex actifolia. And there's already a holly bush growing there. So we know that it grows there. And so it's already, we can in fact take that holly bush and just plant it along the edge. Okay. Second thing, Eleutherococcus tenicosus, which is also known as Siberian ginseng. You can get those from a nursery over in Oregon. They know they grow here, so it's kind of an experiment to see if it will grow here. That's the interior edge. It's a medicinal plant. It's an adaptogenic. Here, forsythia here, forsythia there. Big yellow flowers in the spring. It's beautiful. It's eye-catching, and it's conventional, and it's great like that. Sweet violet, chamomile, New Jersey tea, and chicory. Both sides here, kind of symmetrical. Their sweet violets are blue, so is chicory. Chicory grows up here. We know it grows. It's a dynamic accumulator. Chamomile is yellow. New Jersey tea is kind of whitish flower. It's really beautiful, and they both have medicinal features as well as chicory is a tea, and New Jersey tea is a tea. So there you go.
So we're about to the end. You got 10 seconds.
Okay.
10 seconds. We focused in here, we got berries going, perennial berries, and various ground covers underneath that are also going to be focused on salad greens, so miner's lettuce, other kinds of perennial greens, sea kale, etc. And with the orchards, we're going to throw in more pear trees, which do very well with apples. Mix it up a bit with some peaches and plums. Also, as we're bringing the forest edge forward with more nut trees, more native species such as stinging nettle, which is already on the property. We have some pawpaws and some peaches kind of coming into this area, so it just gradually turns into a more intensive orchard. And I mean, if there are questions about more specific species, we didn't have time to really go into that. We do have some suggestions of things that can be used. A lot of it's going to overlap with what the group before us had said. But I assume it'd be time to go into questions. So anything in particular about this design that you'd like to hear more about, or what our thoughts were putting things together?
All right.
Okay, so we'll open it to any questions about this design for two families.
What was the larger plan for the pond?
The larger plan for the pond?
Right. What kind of plan is around there, or is there aquaculture involved?
Aquaculture was one of the ideas that did percolate up in our schematic design process, particularly given the goal, which I'll have these of productivity. It's something that would be facilitated with the pond. However, part of our site analysis disclosed that water may be a limiting factor. There's one well here, and there's a lot of need for water complication. So we did try to build that into the design of cisterns on both houses, and the pond itself, putting shady trees around it. Aquaculture would be possible with floating units if the residents wanted to get into that, but it does have water demand, and there's also from an infrastructure standpoint ways that we could perhaps use solar pump irrigation, depending on how involved you want to get. But one of the design criteria was also low maintenance. So at this point, we kind of held off on the aquaculture.
If I can elaborate on that a little bit, one of the species we were really interested in was cattail. It's called the Supermarket of the Swamp. There's plenty to do with it all year round. We also, as Brett mentioned, not necessarily going to have enough water to do a really deep pond, but we do have more wetland here. This is how the grade is going, so the water's coming in here. And right now, the property, which you can't really see from this map, is really dependent for biodiversity on the wooded area along this side. And there are a couple lines of forested edge around here that really aren't too wide, so there's not, you can't really depend on them for animals to come in from other areas. And that wooded area is not owned by Jenny and Rob, so we can't take for granted that it's going to be around. So we're trying to create more habitat by bringing the forest edge forward, creating a little bit of a wetland, so that the property itself becomes, you know, in any event, more self-sustaining and more self-reliant.
Other questions?
Seems like there's a pretty much a symmetry line from the housing on both sides. Is that because you considered the needs of those houses similarly, or what was the thought of that?
Bruce, greenhouses?
Well, the notion is that we wanted to maximize the privacy in some ways, but also to provide a link, and that the greenhouses could actually roll over. There could be a tent that would cover. You know, this area gets a lot of summer sun, whereas these areas get more winter sun. I don't know if that helps.
And part of it's a visual link to guide people's attention kind of down the road instead of into the property, to address some of the complaint issues that occurred when people looked into the property and they saw, you know, a bunch of stuff they couldn't deal with. So the thing was to give them something they could deal with, which was a kind of a suburban-looking house with a conventional ornamental garden and edge out the front.
I would assume through design development that it might morph into something more less symmetrical as a concept. That's where
what kind of vegetables
Perennial vegetables they were talking about? What
kind of perennial vegetables?
which area, because there's area.
Well, not we want to talk about the perennial vegetables.
You're actually next to the species. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, here's some perennial vegetables. Good King Henry, ramps, French sorrel, miner's lettuce, salad, leeks, perennial lettuce, sea kale, rhubarb. This can be fruit or a vegetable. And then we had ground covers that people already talked about, and then lots of berries.
Also, in terms of, I'm sorry, another question over here?
Was there any livestock considered to be involved in this?
Not in this design.
This area down in the corner here, where there's an existing shack, could accommodate livestock in the future. A small livestock area, like chickens and so forth.
We did talk about ducks too.
Oh, ducks, yes.
Yeah.
We also did talk about ducks, you know, that could be free ranging in this area, between the pond and
The duck walk.
yeah.
Golden eggs.
One thing I meant to mention, I think the other group talked about it too, in terms of the pathways. But the pattern design also included the design of the pathways, which was really important in terms of getting around the property. So, the part that's in black is all the pathways that we created that would be about 5 feet wide. We figured to get a wheelbarrow through comfortably. So there's this goes along here, it comes around here, it goes through the orchard and through the perennial food garden and up around the greenhouses. So you can see that as another pattern that's an overlay, kind of in connection with the pattern of the different patches.
And here?
The greenhouse functioning and growing in the winter. You have to feed it. Somebody said, I don't remember who it was, it helps keep the house. I always assumed you had to keep the greenhouse to keep it functioning in the winter.
It is a sliding sort of affair. So you kind of have it on rails. so you can move it from one point to another.
There are various levels of heating depends on what you grow. In the most passive one, you can actually grow this stuff as a late harvest, leave it in the ground, cover it with cold frames and a greenhouse, and then harvest it through the winter, like carrots, for example, or depending on what you want to grow.
Root vegetables, stuff like that.
There's also ways that greenhouses could be designed to utilize either compost or passive solar. This is more of a passive solar design because it's situated in the light areas.
Situated right across from the cornfield, which is going to be stubble in the winter. So you get
That sun coming here.
Right. So just so everybody has understanding, and it may be difficult because of the size of the chart here, but basically in the wintertime, these sliding greenhouses would be up against the house. And so that would be achieving the year-round production where it would grow. It's conveniently located right next to the house. But then those plants that would start earlier because of being incubated in the greenhouse environment are in the ground. The greenhouse can slide out and actually tarp could be put over and becomes like a little picnic shelter, opening up to the sides of the walls with a common area in the middle here, which is the CSA area. And we have the open garden during the summer months. So this is achieving an all-season garden using the greenhouse in a very flexible manner. And also, this is the recreation area, so it's creating a common space, but also reflecting that each house has its own private production associated with the structure.
Time for one more quick question.
Any other questions?
Where are the art materials produced?
They're going to be coming from mostly the forest edge. That's where we're coming in with utilitarian native plants as much as possible. Thrown in some, actually, Jenny suggested this being the artist, some of the nuts that can be made into different dyes and inks. The stinging nettle can be.
It's something I use, and home weed.
Which you have plenty on the property.
No jokes.
Various fibrous plants and stuff like that. We're trying to take a cue from maybe native cultures that have done that and developed systems for it.
Paper. There's plenty of art supplies.
all right.
Our head instructor, Dave Jacke, has written an essential 2-volume information-packed book called Edible Forest Gardens, with his co-author, Eric Tonensmaya. You can learn more about it and order it at edibleforestgardens.com.